Okay, welcome back to day 5, unit 9. As I mentioned in previous videos, this is more review. A lot of distractions, we talked about earlier in the class. I told you, gave you the list of 4 or 5 of them we listed off, things like that you could easily list off more than that. The next 2 videos that we're going to watch are more for distraction. The first one, it sort of talks to the parents as well as the students. Okay, it's about 10 minutes long, and the other one talks obviously as well about distractions. Distractions make up a large majority of this course. I know the students get sick of hearing them in class, and it's they say, yeah, okay, I've got it. But when the time comes, when you're driving a vehicle, a 5,000 pound vehicle at 60 miles an hour, you got to be able to focus really, on what you're doing. You could say, yeah, I got it in class, and yeah, you probably do that, and that's fine. But understand, we're just trying to put it in your subconscious to where when you get behind that vehicle, remember what we talked about earlier, it's your responsibility. So distractions play a big part, whether it's cell phone, whether it's GPS, whether it's road conditions, school bus, signs, pedestrians, you name it, other vehicles, road construction. As you can see, there's a lot of different types of vehicles on the road. You got 18-wheelers, you got cars, trucks, SUVs, Jeeps. So all this stuff plays an important part in it. Okay. So this is Unit 9. This is part of the unit. It won't be I'm going to show you the videos first. It won't, and then we'll do the PowerPoint and the little video clips that associate with the PowerPoint and more. But these 2 videos I show in class every time. I want you to see some of the other teens' reactions and how they feel about driving. And I'm hoping that you see where they could go wrong and potentially cause an accident, and hopefully it'll help you to recognize it when you're in that situation, to where you say, oh, I remember that driver's ed, I don't want to do that. Okay, or I don't want to be a part of that stat, or I don't want to be causing someone any injury or any harm. Okay, so we'll watch these couple videos. We'll do the PowerPoint like we normally do. We'll do the little video clips that we've been doing for a while now. So as soon as I get the video up and running, we'll get started.
Couldn't wait.
I was really excited.
I got my license the day that I could.
Oh, the minute.
It was awesome. I'm pretty sure the first place I went when I got my license was Taco Bell. I was really excited. I went and drove everywhere. To a friend's house so I could show off.
Having that freedom, go wherever you want to go. You don't have to depend on your parents anymore.
Going on dates or something, you don't have your mom driving you.
It's just one less thing they have to worry about. I can just leave my house and I don't really have to tell her what I'm doing.
It's fun to be with your friends in your car and listen to music.
16 is when you start to become more mature.
Yeah,
I think. Teenagers in the United States get their licenses earlier than in most other countries, and they have easier access to cars once they're licensed. In many families, giving the car keys to a newly licensed driver means not only freedom for the teenager, but also relief for the parents from seemingly endless chauffeuring duties. But it comes with a potentially high price.
Crashes are the #1 cause of death among teens. Per mile driven, the crash rate for teen drivers is 4 times the crash rate for adults. It's higher still at night, and it's higher when there are other teens riding in the vehicle. It's the highest still right after they get their license. In fact, the crash rate for 16-year-olds is twice as high as the crash rate for 18 and 19-year-olds. During the learner permit, when teens are doing practice driving with their parents in the car, crash rates are really low. That's a very safe way for teens to drive. But once the teen begins to drive without their parent in the car, crash rates skyrocket. Teens are inexperienced drivers. They're more likely to speed.
I think it's fun.
Going 80, 85, I end up rushing a lot.
They make more driving errors.
Almost hit a person like a week ago.
They take corners too fast.
I flipped over my car.
They may follow too closely.
And I rear-ended them.
They're not always able to handle a hazardous situation that pops up for the first time. Driving in bad weather, for example.
It was raining outside. We like skidded and like slid.
An adult driver just has more experience handling a situation like that. Teen drivers tend to minimize their risk and overestimate their driving ability.
I think I'm a good driver.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a pretty good driver.
I think I'm a pretty good
I
driver.
would say I'm a good driver for now.
And that can get them into trouble.
She just loved people. She made friends easy. And she had a lot of friends. Brenda was a good student. She loved to learn. She was really looking forward to going to college. And I never will forget it. When she had been looking, she had been watching the mail close for her acceptance to see if she got into JMU. And she went to the mailbox that day and she came on back. She come through that door and she said, yes, yes, yes. She opened up the envelope, and she looked and she read it. I can see her now. She just, yes, 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 she said. It was a beautiful January day. The sky was so pretty and blue and the sun was bright. And it was just a lovely day. And that particular day, she didn't have to be to school till 11 o'clock. She sat there and she ate a bowl of cereal and she changed clothes 3 times before she left. When she got in the truck, she put a seatbelt on. When she sat in a vehicle, if she was going to drive or if she was riding, she always put a seatbelt on. And anyway, that morning the police camera was on, and I just in the back of my mind, I heard them say that there had been a bad accident on Route 130. And I get on down there, and there's a fireman in the road, directing traffic, and I can see a truck, and I could see the bumper, and I saw the sticker, and I knew it was that truck. So I pulled over to the side of the road, and I asked that fireman, I said, little girl driving that truck, I said, is she her dad? He said, are you kin to her? I said, yes, I'm her mother. And by that time, 2 rescue squad workers, one got one side of me and one got on the other side. I said, the little girl driving that truck, I said, is she hurt bad? And the woman said, yes, ma'am. I said, is she dead? She said, yes, ma'am.
Brandy was an inexperienced driver who died in a crash just 1 month after getting her license. Inexperience contributes to many crashes involving beginners. For 16-year-olds, the first few months of driving is when the risk is highest. Many parents think that driver education is a good way to address some of this risk. It's a good and convenient way to help new drivers learn skills, but parents shouldn't rely on it because poor skills aren't always to blame. Many crashes with young drivers involve their attitudes, not their skills.
New drivers of any age have a higher crash risk. But the issue for teens is that they're coupling that driving inexperience with immaturity.
I love to blast my music in the car.
They're young.
Driving a car, it's like riding a bike.
They may be prone to risk-taking.
I drive real reckless.
The combination of driving inexperience and immaturity is a lethal combination. It leads to a much higher crash risk for new teen drivers.
She got her license on her 16th birthday. She got her car on her 16th birthday. She had waited for it. We had waited for it. We were just as anxious for her to have her license as she was to have her license. She was probably the kind of child that every parent would hope to have. She took everything life had to offer and made the most of it. She had danced for almost 15 years. She had been a competitor in gymnastics, percussionist in the band, and she loved everything she did, and she could never get enough. Unfortunately, Shannon was 16. She was a teenager behind the wheel. She was going to a slumber party that night, and Shannon had a passenger in the car, and her friend had passed her, and probably a combination of, let me see what my little four-cylinder car can do. Rebecca saying, come on, Shannon, pass Heidi. And as Shannon tried to pass Heidi, Heidi moved over so Shannon couldn't get by her. Shannon lost control of the car. And she was hooked up to life support for 24 hours. But she got caught up in the spirit of the moment, a little bit of peer pressure, a lot of being a teenager and thinking you're invincible. It won't happen to me. Shannon's crash was like many other serious ones involving teenagers. It was at night, and it involved speeding and thrill-seeking. Graduated licensing restrictions on young beginning drivers help prevent some of these crashes, and so can restrictions imposed by parents.
The concept behind graduated licensing is to ease teens into driving so that they gain experience in low-risk situations. So the first stage of graduated licensing is a learner's permit. During this period, the parent or another adult is in the car. Then the next stage is what would be called an intermediate license, and this is the stage where the teen first begins to drive without their parent in the vehicle, but graduated licensing limits that driving.
The best graduated licensing systems require 50 or more hours of supervised driving during the learner stage, licensure at 16 and a half years or older, and limitations on night driving and driving with other teenagers in the vehicle until the beginning driver is 18.
All states now have some elements of graduated licensing, and research study after study has found that graduated licensing laws are highly effective in reducing teen crashes. The stronger the graduated licensing law, the bigger the crash reductions.
These kinds of legal restrictions, reinforced by parents, let young beginners be mobile and get driving experience, but they do so under conditions of controlled risk. Protecting young people while they're learning to drive is really the essence of these restrictions. Graduated licensing programs around the country have reduced crashes of teenage drivers up to 30%. But in many states, the restrictions imposed by the laws are still weak. For example, many nighttime crashes of young drivers happen between 9 p.m. and midnight. But the driving restrictions in many states begin at midnight or 1 a.m. And some states don't restrict teen passengers, even though the risk of a crash goes up with even one passenger in the car. And with multiple teen passengers, the risk is 3 to 5 times greater than when a teenager drives alone. Driving around with groups of teenagers at any time of the day is a bad idea. And the highest risk for young drivers is after 9 o'clock at night with other teens in the car. This is when inexperience and immaturity are most likely to lead to dangerous behavior.
Gabriel always had a smile on his face, and so did everybody around him. The very best of kids, honor roll, kept the rules. Everybody loved him. The driver was driving too fast. It was one of Gabriel's favorite songs on the radio. And so it's party time, and she was in the back seat. And he was in the front seat, dancing with her. He was up, dancing with her. The driver might well have been distracted by that. Gabriel was not wearing a seatbelt. He always wore a seatbelt. He used to tell me to wear a seatbelt. It's late at night, multiple teenagers, radio going on, and not much experience in driving. And here he was in a moment of carelessness. An unguarded moment of carelessness, he was dancing in a car instead of looking straight ahead with a seatbelt on. He was dancing with the girl in the back seat. And the driver was carried away also with the party that was going on in his car is what happened to 16-year-olds. And the driver was not seriously hurt physically. The little girl was not seriously hurt physically. Gabriel's not here anymore.
Gabriel wasn't even driving. He was a passenger having fun in the car with other teenagers. Letting your teenager ride with a teen driver is very risky, and Gabriel wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Belt use by teenagers is lower than for adults, and for teen passengers, it's particularly low. Most teens who are killed in crashes aren't using their seatbelts. This is why parents should insist on belt use all the time for everyone in the car. Parents have a critical role during the very dangerous first year of driving. They have much more influence than is typically credited to them.
Parents are still the key decision makers about their teens driving.
With or without a strong graduated licensing law, parents can establish effective rules. First, know the law. Become familiar with your state's restrictions on young drivers, and then enforce them.
Parents are the chief enforcers of their state's licensing laws, and they can supplement the laws with other rules that limit nighttime driving and teen passengers.
There's a midnight curfew. It's 10 o'clock for us.
They have a very strong influence on how their teen learns to drive.
Take every opportunity to drive with them in bad weather, darkness.
You try to cover all the different driving situations your teen might encounter, so that the first time your child is in that situation, they've had practice and they know what to expect and how to respond. One of the most important decisions a parent can make is when they allow their teen to get a license.
It's not a given that once you turn 16, you'll be able to get your license.
Even though your teen may be pressuring you to get the license as soon as possible, the longer you can wait to let your teen begin to drive, the safer your teen will be.
It's been beaten into our heads enough, and drinking and driving is beyond stupid.
Parents should insist on no alcohol. Teenagers are less likely than adults to drive after drinking, but their crash risk is much higher when they do.
Distractions are a common factor in the crashes of newly licensed teen drivers. Cell phones and texting, for example, are a problem for teens because it takes their attention away from the driving task. And almost half of teens have reported that they've texted while driving, and even more have said that they've talked on phones while driving.
I do text and drive on phone. I mean, that's just the reality of it. When you get that buzz or that ring, it's a habit. It's just a reflex to go and check your phone.
It is really distracting, and you try so hard not to look at the text.
There are a growing number of states that have laws banning cell phones for young drivers, but young drivers often ignore those bans.
This is one reason laws aren't sufficient. Another reason is that cell phones and texting aren't the only distractions.
It's really easy for me to get distracted with other people in my car and music.
You're constantly looking down at your GPS or fumbling with the papers in your hand.
Eating. I can't eat and drive. It's so hard.
Anything that takes attention away from the driving task is going to be more problematic for young drivers.
Parents need to send a clear message to their teens that they need to focus on driving.
One of the most important decisions parents make about their teens driving is the vehicle that they'll drive. And there are several features of vehicles that make a difference. The vehicle should be mid-size or larger. They should avoid really small vehicles. They should avoid sporty vehicles. And they should avoid pickups because these vehicles have a tendency to roll over and they're harder to handle.
The best vehicle choice for your teen is one with the latest safety technology, including side airbags that protect people's heads and electronic stability control. Teenagers often don't perceive they're at risk, and they think they're invincible.
You don't think that it's ever going to happen to you.
It won't happen to me. I'm young, I'm healthy, nothing bad's gonna happen to me.
Attitudes like this, combined with immaturity and peer pressure, can lead any teenager to drive irresponsibly. Their driving behavior is likely to be far different from when parents are in the car.
If I'm in the car with my mom, I'll try the speed limit and make sure I turn on all my blinkers and everything. But if you're in the car with your friends on a Friday night, some of those things just kind of go out the window.
Graduated licensing programs are an important step toward reducing the risks for beginning drivers. But the role of parents is critical during the very dangerous first years of driving. We know what works. Restrictions on driving after 9 or 10 at night, and not allowing teenage passengers. These restrictions don't keep teens from getting to after-school activities or to work, but they do cut down on some of the most dangerous kinds of recreational driving.
Parents may not recognize how important their decisions are. Our research suggests that teens will stay safer when their parents stay involved.
We were taking a turn at 70, even though it's advised to take it at 35 or whatever, and like we just lost control and like just flipped. But we were all good.
We were in his driveway, he is in reverse and he floors it and he crashes into a tree.
She didn't have her headlights on and it was nighttime. I was like, you know, you need to turn those on. And she just continued to drive with them off. There was an island there, and so I went over the island.
I really wasn't paying attention and I just made a right and almost hit like 3 little
It
things.
doesn't affect me directly. I'm not going to worry about it until it does.
You just keep going, but you never really get over. You never really. It's no way in the world you can get over losing somebody, especially a child.
Okay. Alright, this next video we're going to watch is about 10 minutes long. It talks about texting. Obviously that's a huge distraction nowadays with everyone texting and trying to drive. So this is a good video. Please watch. And
My name is Grant Hendricks. I'm a trooper with the Missouri State Highway Patrol. I'm at the site of Mariah West's accident. Mariah's vehicle traveled across this median and ended in striking the bridge that you can see behind me. When I got to the scene, her face was disfigured from sliding down the roadway. It's funny, the first thing I noticed about her was her shoes. Lying in the roadway in a large pool of blood, I noticed her shoes and I thought, this is a young girl. That's the first thing I thought when I saw this. And at that point is when I noticed her cap and gown was still in her car. She was going to graduate the next day. It was just a really horrific scene. All because of a senseless text message. It's just sad. Sorry, it's just sad.
Ashley would text hundreds of messages
messages every day. That was the way we kept in touch. We would definitely text more than we talked.
Mariah was a multitasker extraordinaire.
She could text better than anyone I know. She could be having one conversation with me, completely focused,
While having a text conversation with somebody else.
You do something 7,000 times a month, you tend to learn where those 26 letters are.
We would be at school, at home, movies, bowling, driving,
not even looking at her phone,
just simple, insignificant,
Useless, whatever it may be.
about anything and everything.
Just a way to pass the time.
It didn't matter where we were constantly texting. This is my sister. She was looking at my message that I had just sent her. When she looked up, she had clipped the median on the left-hand side of the road. Her truck flipped, and as it was flipping, she was actually ejected through the driver's side door, and she landed in the ditch about 300 feet from her truck. People will tell you over and over again, it's not your fault. But knowing that you were the person that she was talking to when she was killed. Just having a highway patrol officer write in a report that a text message sent at 12:05 is the reason that she is dead is not something that will ever go away. If I could talk to her one last time, I would just say I'm sorry. This is her cell phone that she used in the accident. 4 little letters. That's what killed her.
You never really think about it, but people associate drinking and driving as a dangerous thing. Your vision's impaired, your judgment's impaired. But if you look at texting and driving, your vision's not even there. You're not even looking at the road. If someone would have asked me to drive down the road and close your eyes for 5 seconds or 6 seconds, I would never even attempt that. But then if someone asks, read this text message and respond to that in about the same length of time, well, that would be no problem. I've done that numerous times in the past before this accident. I was on my way home. I had my girlfriend in the car, and I'm just reading a text message and responding. I was looking up every couple seconds or so, like I always did. And I just hear a loud scream next to me, and the next second I look up and I see a bicyclist crashing the windshield. When I got out of the car, he didn't have a pulse, he was breathing. He wasn't alive. There are no words to describe the level of grief, the level of depression and self-hatred I was going through. My first year of college, I just remember one girl recognizing me and saying, "Oh, I remember hearing about you. You're that guy who hit the bicyclist because you were texting and driving." That was actually the day before I ended up going to the hospital for emotional problems. I sent one stupid, meaningless text, LOL, and killed the man.
People don't realize it could just take 3 seconds. I was going to the movies and the car just went directly into a tree and it was a direct collision. I was the passenger. I collided with the tree on my right temple and I was declared dead on the scene 3 times. I used to be able to drive. I used to be able to go for walks. I used to be able to run around town by myself. I used to have a job. I was normal. And all this I cannot do anymore because they got the text. This is the text message that changed my life forever.
The day before graduation, my daughter drove to go meet a boy, and she never made it. Today, she would have been 19 years old exactly.
Mariah never wanted a minute to go by that she wasn't doing something. She wanted to do everything all at one time with friends and family and just having a good time. That's what she loved.
Friends would tell me from school that, you know, the best part of the day at school was Mariah coming down the hall because she'd stop to give everyone a hug. Okay, guys, in honor of Mariah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mariah.
She met a guy who played baseball, and one evening she just spontaneously got in her car and said, "Hey, I'm gonna come watch this game." He was texting her to tell her directions of where she needed to go, and I guess she just looked away for too long. Where are you at? You know, that was it.
One of her friends had no idea that she had been in an accident, so he kept texting. We ended up having to send him a text back to say, please stop. She's in critical condition in the hospital, and we don't know if she'll even make it.
She always worked her magic, you know, and still to this day, without her being here, she's so much still a part of our lives every day. She was our sunshine.
She really was.
She was.
It's a simple text message. Where are you at? 3 simple words.
She paid the ultimate price for her actions. I've had to do this more than once. Mariah is not the only victim that I've dealt with. And it never gets any easier. And it won't get any easier. What is worth losing your life over? That text message?
As you can tell, these two videos are very sad. I show these in class not to scare you. I want you to have a healthy fear of driving every time you get behind the wheel. But I also too want you to be excited about driving because it is something that you'll do all of your life. Now, this is just the first step of it. So I'm really excited for you guys to be able to take this next step. But just understand, it does require a lot of concentration. Okay, we'll go back into the PowerPoint now. As soon as this loads up. As I mentioned, this is a lot of review. We've talked a lot about distractions, and we'll continue to talk about distractions as we go through. And when we were in the car doing the driving lessons as well, driving training, We'll talk a lot about distractions as well. Unit 9, we already talked about the nature of being distracted. We've talked to some, did assignment earlier with distractions in the vehicle, inside, distractions outside the vehicle. Preventing distractions, as I mentioned before, if you have you're driving small children to school or whatever, know to prevent it, know they'll cause you potential distractions. Address them while driving, like I said. Spreading the word on dangers of distracted driving. Yeah, if you have a friend that he or she is driving and they keep being distracted about a text message, offer to send a text message for them so they can focus on driving. And something like that. It doesn't have to be anything just super major. Just who knows? It may save your life. It may save an innocent bystanders. We've talked a lot about distracted driving can be physical or mental. Basically, it's unrelated to the task of driving. Mental, emotional distractions, as I mentioned earlier. You could have a bad day at school and have a bad test grade or something like that, and you're emotionally distracted, or maybe you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or had an argument with your parents or teacher. Effects of distracted driving: slowed perception, delayed decision making, and proper actions. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the course, a lot of these stats are old. I just know there's a lot of them. Teens are more likely to be involved in a distracted driving crash. All states have some type of legislation about distracted driving. It's mainly cell phone use and also texting. Drivers use handheld devices are more likely to crash. Yeah, and actually Bluetooth and just other types of hands-free, not much difference in safety because your mind's not there. It's, whether your hands are on the steering wheel or not, sometimes your mind is talking about whatever you're talking about to the person on the other end, and they're thinking about it and you're thinking about it, and sometimes you could go and have it to where you don't remember how you got home because you've been so talking to the other person on the other line and you forgot pretty much how to drive. Common distractions, we went over all these. Talking on cell, texting, adjusting radio, CD, Bluetooth, anything like that. Talking to the occupants, diverting attention to the person or object. So if something's outside the vehicle, you're looking at it. As we mentioned, physical distractions, takes your hand off the steering wheel or something like that. Mental, you could be talking to someone on the phone or in the car or something like that and totally forget you're driving. Also too, the third one, it can be physical and mental together. Talking on a cell phone. If you're holding the cell phone, obviously that's the physical. And then while you're talking, there's the mental. Here's a couple of few in-car distractions. The curriculum says cell phone, texting, grooming. I've seen people put their makeup on. I've seen people shave. Adjust your radio, audio. Passengers, talking to passengers. Eating, drinking. Adjusting your controls. You should do that prior to starting the car. Adjusting GPS, reading, I've seen people going down the road reading a book. Now you would probably see more people holding their cell phone reading some capacity. Smoking, pets, sneezing. Sometimes sneezing is kind of some of my students feel that there's no way that could happen. But if you think about it, if you sneeze, you're closing your eyes for that split second. Maybe it's a loud sneeze and the occupants of the car are laughing at you, or you're laughing with them, or something. Just having a good time. But it could be a distraction. Cell phone use has increased, obviously. The risk increases up to 400%. Drivers are 9% slower in hitting the brakes. I don't know how they come up with 9%. It diverts your attention away from driving, as we talked. You're looking away from the road, using that one hand to drive, just like the lady in the picture. It affects your ability to make quick decisions and execute a maneuver or emergency maneuver. Benefits of cell phones, obviously there's a lot. Summons roadside help, call 911. Texting, obviously, is more riskier than talking. Requires both to look at the phone and manipulate the keypad. Could miss seeing important change in your driving environment. Maybe stop sign, people walk across the road, just anything. Texting, making decisions, slows you down, ability to make decisions, to reduce. Texting also affects, you could fail to execute a driving maneuver, or brakes, or anything like that. Navigation systems, radio, CD players, could potentially just be distracting if someone's adjusting while they're driving, and take your hand off the wheel, because you go loud or whatever, and they're looking down at the radio, which is not good. Vehicle passengers, this is where you're responsible, to be honest with you, with the car, with your driving, as I mentioned. Also, too, if you're one of the passengers, it's you're responsible not to distract the driver as much as you can. Talking, yelling, throwing things, hanging out the window or vehicle, yelling outside, anybody adjusted audio. Here's some outside distractions. We've talked about this earlier. Outside traffic, crash scenes, rubbernecking, people animally in the roadway or near, road construction, people, objects in the roadway, other vehicles, police, reading billboards, sunlight, sunset, wave ahead by vehicle, tire blowout. Preventing distractions before you drive. Assess potential distractions before driving. Develop a plan to reduce or eliminate distractions. Expect distractions will occur. I promise you, most every time you get in a car, you will have some type of distraction to deal with, whether it's outside or inside. Discuss possible scenarios before driving. Develop a plan. Turn your cell phone off, communication device. Ask passengers to behave responsibly. As I mentioned, it's your ship. You're the one in charge. Determine a travel route before driving, entering GPS. Eat before driving. Do all your personal grooming beforehand. Buckle children, as I mentioned earlier. Make sure they have the right seat belt or right booster seat. Secure pets and pet carriers. That's one of my things I'm seeing more and more. People love their animals and dogs and cats and stuff, and you'll see dogs sitting in the front seat in the passenger seat while the driver drives. You basically see more dogs driving sometimes than you do people. That's illegal and it's very dangerous. Addressing distractions while driving. If you get a phone call, let it go to voicemail. Or let your co-pilot or a person sitting next to you take the message or text. Go ahead and adjust your navigation system or audio system. While driving, ask the passenger to avoid arguments and stressful or emotional conversations. If you're angry with the passenger inside the car, wait till you get home to discuss your anger or argument or whatever it is that is happening. Driver's responsibility while driving. Be aware of all the potential distractions, minimize the chance of occurrence. So you are solely responsible for operating the vehicle in a safe manner. Responsibility falls on the driver, not the distractions. You see it now in black and white. I've been telling you the whole entire course. It's your ship. You're the captain, not the distractions. Okay, so you have to take care of the distractions. Okay, we'll go to a couple video clips.
Typical teenager in some ways and not typical in other ways. Love shopping, boys, going out with friends, meeting with friends. Real fun-loving person. Cassie was on her way to a friend's house. She was on a very busy road, and she looked up in time to see cars stopped ahead of her, so she tried to swerve to miss them and hit into other cars. Needless to say, she didn't make it. She made two poor decisions. She made a decision to not wear a seatbelt and to text and drive. I mean, that was one of my first thoughts. I'll bet she was on her phone because we had talked about it so many times that she never thought that something like this would happen to her. That she was good enough at texting and she was fast at it, so nothing could happen. It doesn't take that long. But that's all it took, was just a couple of seconds, and I was just devastated. There's that empty part of our lives. Nothing can drown that out. Every time you go to bed at night, you just replay that same night over and over again. I should have done this, you go through that. Should we have different questions that run through your mind, and every night just play it over and over again. This is real. It can happen to you, whether you're a teen or an adult. It can happen. It has, and it will probably happen again, unfortunately, to another family. I don't care how good you think you are, and if you think it's a personal choice, it's not. When you're on a public road, you're involving the public. It's not just your decision. You're making it everybody's problem. And I just thank God that my daughter I didn't take any other lives. Distracted driving kills. Safe driving starts with you.
Okay, welcome back. We have one more video in Unit 9, and then I'll give you the code, special code. Be sure to write it in the body of the email.
I'm 18 years old. I go to T.C. Robertson High School. I'm a senior, and I want to be a teacher. I first met Ashley when I was in middle school. I was in 7th grade and she was in 6th grade. She's one of those people that you can always depend on.
Because she always tried to see the positive in all situations.
Outgoing, energetic, happy all the time. When she laughs, everybody laughs. If you were having a bad day, she could change it to make it a lot better. She doesn't care where you come from, who you are, what you look like. If you need a friend, she's going to be there for you. It was May. Ashley was driving down this road. She was on her way to tutoring. She did that every day. She looked down to read a text message, and she crossed over into the other lane, and there was a truck coming. You know, you always hear about not texting and driving, and not to drive distracted, but you never think that anything bad will happen to you, or to anyone close to you. I miss her. Every morning I would come into school and she would say, "Good morning, beautiful." And I miss that at school. I miss seeing her. If I could speak to Ashley now, I would ask her why she was texting, and I would tell her that was so stupid. But she's changed so many people's lives. I worked with Ashley's dad. We just did like an awareness thing, and it's in some driver's ed classes, and it just says what happened to Ashley, how you shouldn't text and drive. From her accident, we've turned it into something positive, and we're changing people's lives. It's amazing how many people are aware of this now, how they know not to use their phones, that no text message is worth your life. It's not worth it.
Okay, that concludes Unit 9. The special code for Unit 9 in this video is GIB 2017. Once again, GIB 2017. Thank you.